Yes, devilish plan. So the Sadducees are growing concerned. Now, we got to talk about the Sadducees. When I was in college, we had a song that we would sing, really beautiful worship song. And part of it said, it was, I don't want to be a Pharisee. I don't want to be a Pharisee because they're so Sadducee. I just want to be a sheep. Wow. And then they said, I don't want to be a Sadducee because they're so Sadducee. I just want to be a sheep. Wow. So that's what masqueraded as a praise song in the 1980s.
Oh, in this case.
So yes.
Did you have fun at prom with your husband?
I did. I have it. I'm always with my husband. It was fun, and it's not his thing, so that was a love language. Because he doesn't like big crowds, but he enjoyed it, so it was good. So the Sadducees are becoming concerned. So the Sadducees, and most people don't know this, the Sadducees made the majority of the Sanhedrin. There were more Sadducees than there were Pharisees, but they were less influential. The Pharisees had more power, even though they were the smaller group. And here's one of the big differences, the main difference between the Sadducees and the Pharisees. The Sadducees didn't believe in the resurrection. I'm not talking about Jesus' resurrection. There is a belief both in Judaism and in Christianity that at the end of time, everyone who has ever lived will rise from the dead, and it tells us in the New Testament that we who are here and alive will be caught up with them in the air. And so the Pharisees believed that. The Sadducees didn't, that there wouldn't be a resurrection at the end of time. But then that was a problem for them. Because what did Jesus do recently? He raised Lazarus from the dead, and they couldn't deny that. Lazarus was walking around. So they couldn't have, and it tells us even in the story that there were some Sadducees there. And I think that's why John included that, because he knew what the rest of the story was. And he wanted people to know, hey, look, the Sadducees say that there's no resurrection. Well, here's one. So Lazarus' resurrection from the dead put them in a dilemma. Here's this man that was raised from the dead. He's walking around. And here's Jesus who's healed the blind. And they couldn't deny the miracles. And especially the raising of Lazarus. Because he was living and walking proof of the fact. And they even admitted in verse 47 his power. So the chiefs and priests of the Pharisees gathered the council and said, what are we to do? For this man performs many times. So they were on the horns of a dilemma. So Caiaphas is going to solve the problem, supposedly. But one of them, Caiaphas, who was high priest that year, said to them, you know nothing at all, nor do you understand that it is better for you that one man should die for the people, not that the whole nation should perish. So he proposes killing Jesus to save the nation. Because if they get rid of Jesus, there's no more fervor over him, and the Romans would go back to being not really nice to them again, but they're not going to be killed by them. So that was Caiaphas's idea. And that is the philosophy of the end justifies the means. Have you heard this saying? It means good. I'm glad because the other class didn't know. So it means that if the outcome is good, it doesn't matter how you get there because it ends up good. Now, I don't believe that's true, right? But that is what he's saying. He's saying, look, the most important thing is we get rid of Jesus. And if we get rid of Jesus, all of this won't be a problem anymore. So it was an unwitting prophecy. And John commented that Jesus truly would die for the whole nation, but not just for the whole nation, for the whole world. He would die for the whole world. Yes. Yes. So Jesus' last retreat from the public view. So he's going to go away. It's not time for him to die. So knowing that he and also controlling the situation all the way along, he decided to go to Ephraim, and that's about 20 miles northeast of Jerusalem. And Jesus stayed there with his disciples, and it was probably the last few weeks, maybe months, before his death. So John did not say specifically what occurred during that time, but he was probably teaching his disciples because he was, like I've talked about this before, he was preparing his disciples. There was nothing that could have prepared them completely. But Jesus is going to hunker down with them here and then in the upper room, trying to help them understand what's about to happen. Now, after he resurrects, after the resurrection, they look back and they go, "Oh, he told us all of that." But they were just despondent after Jesus' death and before his resurrection. So so John doesn't tell us what was happening, but we see him next 6 days before the Passover. So I'm going to I'm going to do this, the public's curious interest, and then we'll stop there and we'll do the rest of it tomorrow. Hang on. I already read that. Sadducees group. Okay. Solves the problem. Makes an unwitting prophecy. There we go. Last retreat from. So from that day on, they made plans to put him to death. Jesus therefore no longer walked openly among the Jews, but he went from there to the region near the wilderness to a town called Ephraim. And there he stayed with the disciples. Now the Passover of the Jews was at hand, it was near, and many went up from the country to Jerusalem before the Passover to purify themselves. They were looking for Jesus and saying to one another as they stood in the temple, "What do you think? That he will not come to the feast at all?" Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given orders that if anyone knew where he was, he should let them know, so that they might arrest him. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll do this. So 6 days before the Passover, Jesus therefore came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, whom Jesus had raised from the dead. When the large crowd of the Jews learned that Jesus was there, they came not only on account of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he raised from the dead. So the chief priests made plans to put Lazarus to death as well, because on account of him, many of the Jews were going away and believing in Jesus. So the crowds want to see Jesus. They are interested in what he's doing, and they are. It is very close to the Passover. And word spread that he was there, and so many people arrived to hear him, and as he was in Bethany, and they wanted to see Lazarus too, because he'd been raised from the dead, and it's almost like I don't know. Seeing someone that's famous and wanting to go see someone who's famous. And in mentioning the threat to Lazarus here, it sometimes costs our. Well, let's put it this way: if we're going to follow Christ and follow Him well, there will be people that don't like us and ridicule us, and in some places you can even be killed. Sarah and Levi, if they are found out, that's going to be a problem. And Jim Elliot, do you know this name, Jim Elliot?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said this: "He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." I'm going to say that again. He is no fool who gives up what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. We can't keep our lives. We can't. We won't lose our lives because we will live eternally. Jim Elliot and his wife Elizabeth were missionaries to the Auca Indians in Ecuador, and Nate Saint was their pilot, and they did everything they could. They did flyovers. They sent down. They sent down messages. They sent down presents for them. But when they thought that they were ready, they thought that the Auca Indians were ready to have them come see them, and they killed all of them. I think Nate Saint maybe was the only one, but I don't remember for sure. But they knew that that was a possibility. And this is what he wrote. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. And note that the crowds came. And sometimes people come because it's just the right thing to do, or it's just what everybody's doing. And sometimes people go to Christian things for reasons other than loving Jesus. But at least they're putting themselves in a place where they can grow in their faith. Yes. Okay, so we'll stop there. We're going to talk about the triumphal entry tomorrow, and we'll be probably done with that tomorrow.